Hey folks, thanks for joining me. So many of my clients that come to our live webinars ask me questions that are outside of the field of anxiety disorders and anxiety recovery. Often I get asked questions about wider life issues. They can be physiological issues, they can be medical issues, they can be about comorbidity between anxiety and other conditions. They can be about social issues, about things that are going on in their lives, with their kids, with their husbands, their wives, their partners. They can be issues surrounding people's jobs or businesses or the collapse of their business in some cases. I often get called into corporate settings where people need some confidence coaching or even just general coaching to have a sounding board in me that allows them to ask questions that they possibly wouldn't ask other people, and for my little mind to unravel what it is they're saying and respond as appropriately as I possibly can. And I think the truth is about me is that because my mind works in a certain way, and because I've spoken to so many people over the years, not only can I analyze incoming data from these conversations pretty quickly, and if I only have one skill, it's to use the lexicon of knowledge I've collected, for the last 14 years doing residential retreats, 26 years doing one-to-one workshops with people, and multiple workshops with people. So I've accrued this kind of lexicon or library of information. And often people come to us with chronic illness, or they are dealing with some kind of pain issue, chronic pain issue. Sometimes they have fibromyalgia or myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome. Sometimes they come to us with anxiety conditions and phobias and obsessions and compulsions, sometimes with clinical depression, sometimes with in periods of mourning. And so I personally get a wide view across society and across humanity of the issues that people face, regardless of race, religion, creed, gender, sex, or any other neurological or endocrinological or matter concerning humans themselves and the development of humans through evolution. It's so far-reaching, and I hear so many stories. So I guess if my only skill is to take all of that and regurgitate appropriate answers to questions, then I hope I've done a good job for humanity. But the reason for this video is very simple. And, I've called it the biology of being you, because I think one thing that happens in society nowadays, especially, which is, much more superficial in terms of social interaction and, of course, social media and the influence of media and news and all of these various channels of data that get streamed at us like a maelstrom, like a storm every day. We tend to be dealing with what's outside of ourselves more than thinking about and understanding what's going on inside of ourselves. So when sociological issues arise, and they could be sociological issues that are to do with the wider community, to do with Russia and Ukraine, or to do with COVID or something like that, or there could be smaller social issues in your personal environment, in your street, in your area, in your family. Regardless of that, what that does is it sucks ourselves out into the environment. So all of our senses and all of our engagement becomes very much projected into the environment that you occupy. And then further to that, past the screens that serve us that data. So not only are we dealing with what's between our eyes and the screen, but we're then dealing with that myriad of data and information that unfolds behind the screen. And that can involve, search engines giving us information. It could be YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. It could be any aspect of the online environment. But what happens is, it's like entering a cave. There's one cave entrance. And as you go into the cave goes off to the left and the right. And then the right goes off into the left and the right. And you get this labyrinth of interconnecting cave networks, if you like, within the cave. But there's just one entrance. Now, if you see your phone or your computer as that one entrance, and once you've gone into it, it's like going down the rabbit hole. It just opens up into this warren of data pathways. You can end up Sometimes you can, if you put in the word dog into a search engine and you go to a website and that website gives you a link to another place, you can keep going just off one word searches. You can keep going forever and ever through one website into another, into a resource, into YouTube, into anywhere that data leads you. And it's the problem with that is that it takes us from this reality, the reality that ends at that screen, into a different reality. Okay, and more than that, physiologically, what happens is that all of your senses that are meant to be massively focused in the real world become focused into the virtual world. What's the problem with that? Masses of problems, actually, from a physiological perspective. Not only does it affect your eyes, looking at the screen and then moving through the screen and only focusing on something, a foot or 2 foot away from you, but more than that, your senses are then focused into something that is a 2D environment, despite the fact that it looks 3D and you're moving almost into various levels of a 3D environment through those pages and through to the different resources that it feeds you to. You are only interacting with a flat screen. Even if that flat screen mimics 3D in front of your eyes, like a virtual reality screen, for example, or virtual reality goggles, it's not real. It's fooling your brain that you're in an environment that is three-dimensional. What you're actually doing is sitting statically at a computer. You're suppressing your thoracic cavity. You're not moving your muscles. And you're reacting and interacting with things on the screen that you should be interacting physically with in real life. So you can look at a screen of yourself running through the woods, but you're not running through the woods. I hope that makes it simple, But the point I'm trying to make is we get so wrapped up in projecting our consciousness out through our eyes into screens and into a virtual world, and then collecting sensory data through our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and skin that is confined to the speakers and the screen in front of you, that what we tend not to do is consider ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should become mindful, because mindfulness it's a one-way track to oblivion, quite honestly. If you have a predisposition to suffering from some kind of anxiety condition or mental illness, and I won't go into that, but or mental illness, in other words, conditions that control your emotions, for example, clinical depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, psychosis, that kind of thing. That's a whole different bag. But anxiety conditions aren't that. And if you watch my other videos, you'll understand why. Anxiety conditions are disordered fear. Okay. And I'm not going to start now waxing lyrical about anxiety and recovery and all of that sort of stuff. But what I want to make very clear to you is that when you exist as a human in the world, the 3D real world, we are interacting in a way that has no boundaries. If you look to the skies, there are no boundaries. If you walk constantly, there are no boundaries. It's a circle around the sun, around the earth. Sorry. As you pass around the earth, you can watch your shadow by the side of you as you go through moon phase back to sun phase. You know that you're passing not just through time, but you're also passing through space. You're moving through actual physical space. And on that journey, you're collecting environmental data through your senses. That is the experience of life that we all should have. And during that journey, we're exercising our muscles, we're moving our internal mechanisms around, we're operating at full capacity because we're acting as humans are meant to act. But my point at the start of this was that we forget the biology of us. We are human entities. We are biological machines put together to perform very specific tasks. And many of those tasks are prevented by modern life. So in order to maintain balance as humans, modern humans, we have to understand the biology and mechanics of us. If we go away from the biology and mechanics of us, or we abuse the biology and mechanics of us, we then suffer from disorders, which can become disease, which can be fatal. So there are certain things that we have to accept that we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be putting toxic materials into our body in any form, solid or liquid. We shouldn't be absorbing things that we shouldn't be breathing in or drinking or swallowing things that are going to give rise to us not just suffering from a disorder due to that alteration in the way that our body responds, but also it could lead to poisoning or some other issue. We have to understand that as a biology, as a core biology. You know, because you went to school presumably, or at least you've understood through some form of education, even through your parents, that we need solids that contain nutrients, we need fluid that contains water, and we need air that contains the elements within air that we can then metabolize and use to stay alive. When those three systems and the other systems within the human body work together in synergy, it's called wellness. Now, this is my point. For all intents and purposes, everybody is born well. They may weigh a little bit more than somebody else or a little bit less than somebody else. They may need some help at the start of life. They may need to go into some kind of incubator. They may be failing to thrive, so they need some human intervention to make them grow faster and to become healthy and in fact, to live. Everything that you are born with, save those things that your parents may have passed on to you genetically, and also any disordered responses that may have come from your mother as she carries you. So, for example, if she was a heavy alcoholic or a drug addict or something like that, her body can influence your body, and there are syndromes that result from those situations. But if you're born as a balanced human individual, you should remain balanced through life. That's your job, to look after the vehicle that you as a person, the biological entity of you, was gifted at birth in order to get through life and carry the essence of you, which is your personality and your specific traits, through life and have a long life, procreate and be healthy. And then at the end of it, of course, it's over. But that's our job as human biological entities. And over the last, let's say, over 1,000 years ago, there were things that were threats to humans. Of course there were, but we generally lived in a more healthy way. We were moving more, we were hunter-gatherers more, we were surviving. Now, there were diseases and there were situations, social situations like poor housing and molds and diseases that would give rise to us having a shortened life. That's just the crap of life, unfortunately. That's exactly how life should be, really. And over the years, of course, there have been drugs developed and synthesized, some of them from natural substances, some of them not, that we can take to aid us in that journey and give us more life expectancy. You know, the introduction of antibiotics, for example, stopped a lot of diseases and bacteria specifically from killing humans. And by taking them, we have more longevity. So there are situations like that. And I'm not going to go into the depths of that because I'm sure you understand that. But where I'm trying to get to is to tell you that the human body and mind should self-manage. Okay, in well-being, and most people are born in well-being, it should self-manage. As long as you feed it the correct data, and as long as you feed it the correct substances, and as long as you move in the correct way with enough consistency, you should stay well and balanced, happy, and every other experience of life that maintains that sense of well-being for us all. If you get to the point where you decide that you're going to input something that would be negatively influential to that process, so if you don't move too much, you lose fitness, clearly, you might gain weight. That may then lead to other systemic disorders and potentially what you would classify as illness. If you eat too much sugar, it's going to lead to your body not dealing with it correctly. It could lead to diabetes, it could lead to heart disease, cancer, and other conditions associated with blood sugar regulation. If you, I could keep going on forever. If you drink alcohol, we all know where that could end. If you smoke cigarettes, you know where that could end. Vaping, and so on. So whatever you put into your body, you have to expect some kind of response as your body tries to deal with that poison, deal with that substance, even if it's not a poison. A glass of water has to be dealt with, and it's dealt with primarily by your kidneys and flushing it out, the toxins out, and then excreting those, and then peeing the excess fluid out when you've used enough to keep yourself hydrated. But even that's a problem now, isn't it? Because water's full of all sorts of rubbish, and on top of that, water generally hasn't got enough salt in it to keep you hydrated. So even that becomes an issue for humans, and especially in places where the quality of water and the access to salt in the diet is diminished. And there are so many lies that have been told to humans over the years about, the truth about, the big one is the truth about sugar and fats, because fats were demonized. So people were told, don't eat too much butter, don't eat too much cheese, don't eat too much red meat, don't eat it. Because it was done to pull people away from the thought that sugar might be harming them. Well, of course, people didn't think then that sugar was harming them, so they'd eat sugar, put on weight, get diabetes, get heart disease, and say, what the hell's going on? I thought it was the butter that was the problem. So there's a whole thing around, for example, the control, the use of statins to control cholesterol. Cholesterol, good cholesterol is good cholesterol. It keeps you healthy. Your brain, to a massive extent, is made up of cholesterol. It needs cholesterol. So people are thinking now, okay, so if we've used statins and if we've used other, diets to bring people's cholesterol levels down, perhaps that's where Alzheimer's and degenerative brain diseases come from. And there's massive, massive research going on that has so far confirmed that could be the case. So but again, we can go down all these pathways and we can discuss all these various health concerns, all of these wellness concerns. We can go down, political routes. We can go down medical routes. We can go down, routes in alternative medicine. But the truth always comes back to the actual biology of you. That's unchangeable. There's nothing you can do about the biology of you. Yes, you could have operations to change how you look. You could have things augmented to look differently to how the way they looked when you were born. You can take various substances, including hormones, to augment how you look, to bring you more in line with what your expectations. You can have penis implants, breast implants, you can have your lips done, you can have tattoos, you can have whatever done. The biology of you remains the same. And this is where I think we all have lost touch with the truth about being us, the biological human us, regardless of color, creed, or anything else. We're all the same. We're all equal. We're all the same. Yes, there are biological differences that make, Caucasian people suffer with, for example, sickle cell anemia at a lower rate than people with darker skin. Yes, there are certain genetic disadvantages in certain genetic pools and races, for example. But I'm more susceptible to skin cancer than a man that was born in Africa would be, for example, because of my pale skin and because of my genetic makeup. My pale skin and my ginger beard also makes me more predisposed to having hay fever and having eczema and things like that. So we all have those little crosses to bear. And yeah, some of them can be genetic. Some, of course, can be environmental plus genetic. But ultimately, I am the biology of me. I know what I am, I know what I have to work with, and I know how I have to operate in order to move through life as cleanly as I can and as healthily as I can. But not understanding that is where it all unravels. And of course, it's so easy, isn't it, to go and sit in front of somebody with letters after their name and listen to them intently because they're also knowledgeable, and just accept what they say because of the letters rather than because of the science, if the science is actually there, if it's not there, if it's questionable science, if indeed this person has the right to tell you this stuff at all. And you could be sat there thinking, well, what right do you have, Charles? You haven't got a qualification in anatomy or physiology. You're not a doctor or a psychiatrist. You're not an endocrinologist. No, I'm not. I absolutely agree that I'm not. However, I have a knowledge of all of those things. And when you pull them together, what do you get? A human. It's not sophisticated. The thing is, if you trust somebody to rebuild a classic vehicle for you, take every nut and bolt apart and separate it into a 20 by 20 meter array of parts, and then put it back together and polishing it all and respraying it, and at the end of it you get the lovely shiny TR6 that drives like a dream. What degree has he got? What qualification has he got to do that? He hasn't got those things. He's got the knowledge. And when you have the knowledge, it doesn't matter who you are. And look, could I operate on somebody or replace a heart valve or cure somebody's illness? Possibly not. But do I understand what those things are and how they all bolt together? Yes. I just haven't done the cutting and the sewing. And that's because I didn't go down the pathway that I wanted to go down at school, which was to be a heart surgeon, because of my anxiety. And my career pathway changed because of that. My mum was a nurse practitioner and worked within mental physical healthcare and mental health care for many, many years, involved with HIV and AIDS in the 80s. And then she went on for control of infection, and she became a trainer, a nurse trainer, and hugely knowledgeable. Would you want her to operate on you? If I was on a desert island with her and I had an appendicitis, absolutely I would. I'd take my chances. So you don't have to have a formal education in medicine or psychiatry or psychology to help people to understand the biology of themselves and maximize the potential of that biology. Similarly, if training that people do at university or college that leads to a certificate in whatever it might be doesn't contain the knowledge in order to help people with the things that they claim to be able to help them with, they shouldn't be helping them. It's very simple. And I've proven this time and time again. I've had psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, even endocrinologists and otherists sat in front of me, and I tell them the biology of them, and they kind of go, oh my God, I didn't realize, I didn't understand, I'd forgotten, or I didn't put those things together. They didn't tell us this at medical school. Certainly in psychiatric and psychological training, none of this is included. So if none of the physiology of you that pertains to your anxiety condition, your phobias, obsessions, compulsions, and off the back of that, your panic disorder, agoraphobia, puro, health anxiety, eating disorders, self-harm, and so on. If the science and biology of you isn't included in the training that teaches, that should be teaching those people to treat those conditions, why the hell are they trusted to treat them? It doesn't make sense. And they'll sit in front of me and say, oh, I help people with OCD. Do you? Explain what OCD is. And they start talking, and you sat there going, I asked them to explain what OCD was. They don't seem able to do that. And we're talking psychologists, psychiatrists. I'd say to people, what is an eating disorder? Just simply, what is anorexia? Anorexia nervosa is a condition, a severe mental health condition. No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you what it is. Well, what do you mean what it is? What is it biologically? How does it manifest? Why do they have those thoughts? Why are they compelled not to eat? Because they've got anorexia. Brilliant. Well done. Thank you. It's unbelievable that they're let loose on people. But again, let's not dwell on that. Well, the purpose of this video was solely to say to you, if you want to understand why you don't need self-help books, why you don't need yoga, by the way, I'm using the word need, why you don't need to meditate or do, all of these fixes that people give you, why you don't need to take medication. There may be a case that you do need medication, but generally with these kind of issues, life issues, and with any life issue really, other than illness, you don't need medication. If something needs correcting chemically, it's because you're ill. If you haven't got an illness, you don't need to correct it medically and clinically and chemically. So look, my point is, most things that you experience in life can be fixed by doing 1, 2, 3 things. Genuinely. Many of my clients have come to me. They might have been actors on a TV series, or they might have been a CEO of a company, or they might have been somebody who's just got divorced, or they might be a single mom, or they might be an athlete. And they ask very, very similar questions. So why are the questions similar? They're entirely different age, different genders, different life experiences, different backgrounds, and yet the questions are the same. Well, because they're human. If you take a dog to a vet, a dog's a dog. If you take a cat to a vet, a cat's a cat. If you take your hamster to the vet, the hamster's a hamster. The vet knows the biology of that particular entity. And when the hamster has got a bulge here and he opens his mouth and he's got a tooth, they know exactly what to do. When a cat, presents with a particular, they know exactly what to do. And when they can't see what's wrong, they x-ray them or they scan them and they find out what's wrong and they know exactly what to do because they know the biology of them. And yet we are gifted this biology at birth and we kind of forget who we are. In fact, we're not even taught who we are, most of us. Most people don't even know what it is to be themselves. I've had women ask me questions about their own anatomy, and men actually, but not so much, because I think it's not so much of a hidden issue. let's put it that way. But they ask me questions about their body. They ask me questions about their body because they're too embarrassed because of their anxiety to ask other people, including their parents, their doctor, or anybody else. And I've had women ask me questions that mean that they've not had a look, but basically. And you go, how do you get to 46 and not know that? But people don't. But it isn't just about superficial physiology. People don't know sometimes, that they've got two kidneys. They don't know that they've only got one liver. They don't know that how long the digestive tract is, or they don't know what the appendix is. They don't know what the epiglottis is. They don't know. Look, I don't expect these people to have gone to university or to have studied medicine, but I think it's of prime importance for humans to understand the way their body works and then forget about it until something goes wrong. Because being ignorant about the workings of the body and how you fuel it and how you exercise it and how you stay well means that you're not looking after your vehicle. You were gifted a Ferrari at birth and you've pretty much neglected it. Most people neglect their Ferrari and then they get to 45 and say, oh, it's really weird, my Ferrari's not working properly. Have you put water in it? Yeah, occasionally. Did you lubricate the... No, forgot. Well, did you put the right fuel in? Well, what's the right fuel? Sorry, is it? I don't know whether it's got this level of octane or that level of octane. Is it unleaded or leaded? Is it diesel? Is it, the human body is a finely tuned Lamborghini. It's more than that. It's got more moving parts and more sophistication than any vehicle on earth, and you own it. And yet, neglect is the most vital element of any illness or any condition that people will suffer from. So the biology of you is about understanding you on a core level through a very, very simple, unsophisticated explanation that just gives you an overview of why this might happen and why this might happen and what you have to do to prevent this and what you have to do to prevent something else. And if you've got that, and then somebody says, and specifically, your issue is due to this, this, and this, so all I need to do then is do that, that, and that, and it changes. This is how we cure people of anxiety conditions. It ain't difficult. Why isn't it difficult? Because it's the biology of you. It's just that psychology, psychiatry, medicine, and every other ist out there in the world that is collecting your money, either directly from you or through healthcare provisions, is adverse to creating recovery. Why? Because recovery doesn't pay. Suffering pays. And so if you go to somebody and say, I'm suffering from OCD and I've got panic disorder, what do they do about it? They might give you a few tablets. Oh, those are working. Yeah, I'm having less panic attacks. Well, they're not working then, are they? The fact that you're having less panic attacks means that you're still having panic attacks and you've still got anxiety and OCD. So they're not working really. They're just subduing it in some way. If you go and have talking therapy, yeah, I feel all right when I'm in there, but as soon as I leave, I feel worse. Well, why are you having it then? What's the point? Well, it's working in a way because she's a really nice lady. Yeah, but it's not working, is it? Because you've still got OCD. The point is, all of these conditions, most conditions, whether it's gut-related IBS, whether it's perceived issues with food sensitivities, whether it's hormone imbalance, whether it's there's a whole gamut of medicalized conditions that aren't actually medical conditions. They're just disorder. And if you have the correct information, those disorders just wouldn't exist. But the problem is, most people just go to a doctor, go to a psychologist, go to a psychiatrist, sit there, get handed the prescription, and then listen to the advice, go away, and continue to suffer. Very few recover. And in fact, psychiatrists, there's a documentary done not too long ago where they went to a load of psychiatrists and said, how many people have you cured in your career? Oh, you can't be cured. No, there's no cure. No cure. Bullshit. I've cured thousands of people. Do I do it every time? Do our clients, our practitioners do it every time? No, sometimes they fail. Why do they fail? Because the people don't do what they're asked to do. If you don't go to the gym, you won't get fitter. If you don't take the tablets, you won't get rid of the infection. If you take our advice and we show you and prove to you that it is the solution and you don't do it, that's your choice. But it won't work, or the effect will be diminished. But it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means you haven't done it. And often people pick me up, oh, that's a cop-out, isn't it, Charles? You always got that cop-out, haven't you? I haven't tried. I didn't say you didn't try. I said you didn't do it. If you do it, it works. If you don't do it, it doesn't work. It's like everything in life. You can go to school every day of your life and fail all your exams because you didn't do it. That's your choice. More for you, but you didn't do it. You were given the opportunity, you were put in the classroom. Why didn't you just take advantage of the time and pass the exams? Oh yeah, because I'm a bit thick. No, you just didn't do it. Going to school and passing exams is an exercise in retention of information and regurgitation of information when asked. It isn't a process that teaches you, gives you intellect. All it does is give you facts that you have to regurgitate. Anybody can do that. It's just that most people, a lot of people, aren't interested, like I wasn't. My attention was so marred by my anxiety, and because my brain works in a particular time due to neurodiversity, I had my own group of issues, as we all do, because we're all the same but different. But you have to understand that what will do this for one human will do this same for another human. Drinking water cures thirst. Eating food cures hunger. It's just the way we're built. You can't escape it. It's the humanity of being you. I've got some comments here, so I'll just have a look at them and see and respond to them. Hi, Charles. Signed up to the method 10 years ago. Just wanted to drop a message to say it transformed my life. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. I went from insomnia, ectopic beats, and they are all gone. Yeah. One of the, I think probably the most troublesome of all anxiety issues are those that affect the heart, because people's impression is that it's going to in some way harm them or kill them. And very often there are many things that can happen with the heart that aren't indicative of disease or near death at all. But thank you. That's a fantastic post. Suffering from tooth bite, anxiety, focusing due to recent lots of stress and some dental work being done, and clenching, bruxism. Yeah, you know what? So common in anxiety. Having a hard time finding a devotion to get through it. You need to come to my webinar on a Monday at 6 o'clock UK time, because you need to understand the difference between, people say, oh, Charles, what you do is about diversion. It's not. It's a combination approach that hits hard at the subconscious aspect of being you, and it fixes the problem. Thank you for all your help, Charles. Your YouTube videos alone have helped me immensely. You're very welcome. But please try and come to my Monday webinars. Go to thelindenmethod.direct and just join up for the webinars. If you do nothing else, come to my webinars and I'll help you. Insomnia seemed to be the hardest one to shake, but once I realized what I was doing wrong, it went. Exactly. And this is the point, isn't it? And this makes the point perfectly. Once I understand what I was doing wrong, it went. It's like most things that we would consider to be illness or disorder, and the things that we go to, it's like taking, instead of seeing somebody who can correct the problem with your back, you just keep taking paracetamol. Every day you're just chucking the tablets down because it kills the pain. Does it get rid of the problem? No. You go and see the right specialist, they look at your back and they fix it. Once it's fixed, the pain is gone and you don't need to take the paracetamol. And that's true pretty much, probably about 80% of those things that people would consider to be physical or mental illness. They can be corrected without any further intervention than understanding the physiology of you and correcting the physiology that is implicated in whatever it is you're experiencing. Anyway, that's my message for you today, and I hope it's in some way sparked you to think differently about you and how you are. But one thing I learned through buying probably 1,000 self-help books, seeing probably 20 or 30 different practitioners through the years of my anxiety. I'm not just talking about anxiety, I'm talking generally about well-being. Through all of that and understanding what's out there in the world that is claimed to help, whether it's talking therapy or EMDR or EFT or CBT, DBT, NLP, whether it's alternative therapies, whether it's substances, those could be alternative or synthesized chemicals, antidepressants or sedatives. Regardless of all of that, you've got to draw a line, sort of put a mask over that for the moment, and see the truth. And when you see the truth, that whole industry and all those multiple industries that are supported by the untruths and the complication caused by psychology and medicine and psychiatric practice, once you've got that veil and you've covered all of that and you can see the truth for what it is, that's the point at which you start recovering. And that's how we create recovery with what we do. And that's why everybody that suffers from any kind of anxiety condition, OCD, panic disorder, agoraphobia, monophobia, health anxiety, eating disorders, and all of those, or even mental illness like clinical depression or psychosis or one of those other conditions, degenerative type conditions like Alzheimer's, all they need to do is understand how they maximize their potential, maximize their wellness despite those things. And even if it's somebody that's suffering with some kind of endocrine disorder, whether it's menopause or perimenopause, or whether it's low testosterone, high testosterone, it doesn't matter. Understand the biology of you and implement what we say to make the changes, and you will be well despite those things that are incurable or not treatable through this process. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for listening to me. Take care.